All right, ladies. Well, welcome, 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 welcome. This is going to be our recap. So, you guys know, usually, if you miss Bible study, you just miss it. But in light of the fact that we are in the middle of our 12-day fast together, the Lord actually put it on my heart this time around to actually record and have it so that you guys can actually see the PowerPoint too for the very first time and not to just do it in audio. So that's kind of new, but thank the Lord for all things and what he does best. So I just want to go ahead and get all the way into it. Okay, so I've got to give you a little bit of a recap because the last thing that we talked about was we're in the season this year of rest. God has given us the season of rest. And so when we started this off, we were looking at 4 different types of phrases that go with rest. Come to rest in the word, come to rest here, as in a specific place in the now, come to rest restless, and or come to rest there. Which could be once you get to a specific place in this year, that is where God wants you to take your rest. And I think it is showing a little every day that some of these phrases are going to pretty much intermingle throughout our year. I know that what I started with is actually not the only thing that's on my mind when it comes to rest. And I hope that you all are seeing a lot of the actual same thing, is that we could almost use each and every one of them for each and every situation that's going on with us. So we came to this conclusion in the beginning of the year that in order for us to even consider rest, we really need to understand what it was. What does God call rest, and what is the right way to rest? We can't assume that we actually know, because our ways are not his ways and our thoughts are not his thoughts. And so we pulled out first and foremost Jeremiah 6:16. And Jeremiah 6:16 pretty much just reminded us that we're always at a crossroads. There's always some decision that needs to be made. But if and when we're going to make these decisions, we need to ask for the ancient pathways. And that's any and everything that's tested, tried, and approved by God. That's all of Hebrews, your cloud of faith. Show us that way so that we walk in the way that is tested, tried, and approved. And then we need to ask him that in showing us that way, show us where the good way is. Show us what is good about that path. And when we know what's good in that path, then Lord, help us to walk in it, actually do what you said once we know what to do. And we're looking for something. We're hoping to find true rest, and not just the physical rest, but rest for our souls, that peaceful place in the midst of the decisions that we need to make. And you all, we have gone pretty far. We have looked at Genesis. We've looked at Psalms, we've looked at Second Corinthians, and in each and one of the scriptures that we've studied this year so far, we are finding the answer to that question. Lord, where is the ancient path? And we're finding the answer to where is the good way. Second Corinthians tells us that the good way is always glorying in our infirmities because of the power of Christ. We're learning what it looks like to actually rest, because in Genesis we see that rest is about completion. But in Psalms, we see that rest is really being aware that God is with us. And so we're going to keep moving on. We have Psalms 91 to consider today. And so with Psalms 91, the focus was really verse 1 and 2. However, if you've read all of that psalm, it is actually really good, and it coincides with 1 and 2. The more that you read of that psalm, the more it kind of all makes a little bit of sense. And so there's 2 versions that I wanted to talk about. There's actually 3, but you have 2 on the screen. And so the first is the NIV, which the NIV actually gives you the word rest. It says, whomever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. But then when you look at the King James Version uses a different word. It says, he that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. So we have the word rest, we have the word abide, we have the word shelter in NIV, but then for the King James Version, we have the phrase secret place. And then we see Most High is repeated, and also the shadow of the Almighty is in both versions, and so is the word dwell. So that's a lot to unpack, but I want to unpack it with you. So let's talk a little bit about some context, just some pieces of Psalms 91. Psalms 91, they want to attribute to Moses, because a lot of what's in Psalms 91 is actually really specific to when the Israelites were in the wilderness, but they actually don't say who it actually is. They're only speculating, because some people actually also attribute it to David. And one of our sisters told us yesterday for the live Bible study that often the psalm before it, if that has an author, then they just assume that the one after it is the same author. So that was something new that we didn't know. Why was it written? The psalm is called very many different things. It's called the Psalm of the Plague. It's called the Song of the Evil Spirit. There's quite a few things that it's been called. It's also known as the Psalm of Protection. So clearly, when we're talking about, well, what's this psalm all about? It seems to be that it is pointing towards God's protection for his people. And that's a big deal for all of us in this season of life with the pandemic and all the different loss that we've seen and just the different things that are happening in the world. This is a perfect time to look at Psalms 91. So when we're talking about rest, there are certain words that can describe rest. You could say when you see someone resting, they're peaceful. When you see someone restful, you can see them kind of in the same place, standing in the same place, or being in the same place. The rest has any and everything to do with maybe even being stationary. There are lots of words that you can describe rest with. Interesting thing is that these are some extra words that can be attributed to rest that we probably do not use as often. So the word abide is a big one, and we've seen that in the King James Version. But delay, stable. When something is resting on something, when your cup is resting on a table, it's actually stable, right? Stay. Most of us have thought about that. Our staycations are usually for rest. And then the word wait is also attributed to describing rest. And so there are at least 4 up here that we could go, okay, I could see that. But then abide is a word that we do not use often. Most people aren't walking around telling you, hey, what you doing? I'm abiding. That's not a word that we use often. And because that's the more of the peculiar word, and it is the word used in King James, it is very important to look at what abide actually means. And so in Hebrew and in Greek, it gives you some specific nature. It's a specific nature that the word abide speaks to. You see the word stay, the word continue, abode, wait, pause, delay. Greek, they give you the words tarry, to be present, to stand, and to remain. Now, the beautiful thing about these words is that, again, they're very specific. And if anything, you take away the fact that abiding is a continual thing. It's not something that you step in and out of, in and out, in and out, but it's something that is so continual and so stable. Rest, when God is speaking of it, is a continual thing. Whereas we often think of rest as something that's kind of choppy. It happens and then it doesn't happen. Then it happens and it doesn't happen. Or if the conditions are right, then I can rest. But God is showing us in the word abide that rest is not contingent. Rest is continual. And that's a beautiful thing to consider and to kind of change our mindset a little bit with what we think about rest. And so when we're talking about abiding, where are you continually making, well, where are you continuing in, or what are you continuing in? Where are you making your home? That's an even better word. Where are you making your home? Because it also says to make your abode. And that's a loaded question, because sometimes we're making our home our own thoughts. We're abiding in our feelings. We're continuing in those feelings. Sometimes we make our home in our circumstances. We continue to only see what we see. And in the world is abiding in all different types of things. They're making their home within people that, this is what's going to continue. This person is going to be what continues to make me happy. This type of money is what's going to continue to make me happy. Yet God tells us that we should be abiding where? Where is the right place to abide? And the right place to abide is supposed to be in the secret place of the Most High. So if you look at Exodus 33, 20 and through 22, and if you also look at Matthew 6, these are going to be great examples for you of this secret place. So what makes a secret worthwhile? What makes a secret worthwhile is the fact that it's not always known to everyone. A secret place is often sometimes not even known to the senses. When you think about secret places under staircases or even little secret hideouts, a fox's hideout may not be known to you, but it's his house and he is aware of it. So when we're talking about the secret place of God, where is that? Well, we learn from Psalms that there is no place for the great and almighty God. All place is his place because he owns everything. So this secret place that we're talking about is really his presence. It's actually all of who he is. And if you look at Exodus, this is when Moses is asking God. He wants to see him. He wants to see what God, he wants to encounter God. And God says, okay, listen, do you want to die? Because if you really encounter all that I am, you're going to die. But what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to put you in a covering and I am going to go past you. And when I get past you, you'll be able to look at my back. But he had to cover Moses. He could not just reveal all of who he is, all of his glory to him, because it's too much for all of mere man. So what does that mean for us? Well, it means that God specifically reveals himself in his own way, in his own spiritual way. He's revealing himself to us. And that's our secret place. That's our moment with him. And those moments are moment by moment. Again, if we're talking about abiding, which means it's continual, then that means we have every moment, every second to be with God. This secret place is also not known to everyone, because you remember the Israelites at one point, they were whining and complaining, Lord, make Moses, make the Lord stop talking to us. He's too much. That's too much. They said, just let him talk through you. But Moses got the opportunity to be in the secret place with the Lord all by himself. He got to experience him in a way that others have not. But that's our truth about the world. The world is not aware that there's a secret place that holds peace and joy. They're not aware of that because not everyone is his sheep. The sheep hear the shepherd's voice. So they're not all aware, but we are. We've been given the knowledge that there's a secret place. There's a place that we can go and abide continually with God. Matthew 6:6 is when the Lord is talking about prayer and how prayer works. And he says, if you're going to pray, I want you to go away to your closet and talk to your father in a place that is not seen or not known. Again, that's an opportunity for us to go away with God. And it's not that you left and went anywhere outside of the realm of time, but that in its own little way, it's its own magic. It's its own special place that's fortified because God has given it to us. Prayer is how we access that secret place. Asking is how we access that secret place. And that's where we're supposed to be abiding. That's where we're supposed to be making our home. That's where we're supposed to be delaying when God says no to something. He says, I've got to delay that for you. We're supposed to rest in the secret place with him. When we have to wait, we're not supposed to just be waiting and standing on the edge going, when is this over? We're supposed to be waiting in the secret place, finding joy within who God is and what he's doing, instead of doing what we regularly do, which is trying to look around the situation, trying to go over the situation, under the situation. We just need to abide with our God in this place. The NIV uses a different word to give us a little bit more imagery. The NIV calls it the shelter of the Most High. So let's talk about shelter for a minute, just in regular terms. What does shelter usually do? Why do people build shelters? Well, usually shelters are used to protect. You know, a lot of the different cities have an actual emergency shelter. Why? Because it's supposed to protect them. It's built for storms. It's built for the elements. A shelter is usually strong. Nobody builds a very, very flimsy shelter. Consider that your house is its own shelter, and nobody wants a flimsy house unless you want to fall on top of you. And so when we're talking about the shelter, again, shelter is not always known by the human eye. It's not always known and can't be perceived by the senses. And so God says, again, I want you to shelter with me. I am your shelter. I want you to wait with me. I want you to, if you've got a delay, if I'm the one delaying you, I want you to be protected with me while you're being delayed. I want you to know that the storm I'm made for, whatever you've got going on, I'm made for it. So come and rest with me. Come abide. Make my shelter and who I am your special place, your secret place, your place of peace. Isn't that just so good to your soul? Though, when you think about it, like, Lord, you've got a place for me that doesn't have to defy the laws of gravity. I can be here, but also with you, even in this moment with us doing Bible study, when you're praying, when you're talking about the Lord, you've kind of entered into the secret place. And it's funny because you know how sometimes when you pray or when you start talking about the Lord, how the atmosphere almost feels like it changes. There you go. That's a secret place. We've invoked the secret place. And it says, that's where I want my children to abide. So in Psalms 91, if you look all the way through it, you read all of it, God is called many things. He's likened to many things, but all the things that he is likened to just give you more of a full understanding of just how big he is and why we can abide with him. It calls him a rescuer in one of the verses. It calls him a bird in the other. He stretches his wings. It calls him a shield in another verse, calls him refuge in a different verse, and calls him a fortress in a whole nother verse. But all of these things have a specific purpose. When you're talking about a bird, tell me where you've been that you've never seen a bird. And don't even tell me, oh, well, you know, I don't know that I've seen anything flying. Okay, not all birds fly. Chicken is a bird. So where have you been in all of the world that you've never seen a bird? A bird is like everywhere. And that's the same way God is. He's everywhere. I could make God my shelter because he's everywhere. Where is he that I am not? When you're talking about God being a rescuer, when you think on the things that he's done for you, yeah, I could wait with God, because if I've got to wait here in this scary situation, he's rescued me many times. If I'm gonna call God a shield, because Psalms 91 does, a shield protects me. I could delay with a shield. I don't necessarily have to strike back right away. If there's a shield that protects me, I can delay my next move. I can delay my next decision with God, because he's the shield. He's going to take care of whatever could harm me. He's my refuge. He's my fortress, my strong tower. Why wouldn't I want to make my home with someone who's all of this? Why would I not want to wait with this person? Why would I not feel stable if I'm with this person and that I can access all that he is in a moment, in a second, in any second? I can stay with him. I can live with God. So it goes on to say in Psalms 91 that if you, and I want to read it again, it says, he that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide, that's that piece of rest, under the shadow of the Almighty. Let's talk about the shadow of the Almighty. If we just take in context what a shadow does. I just want you to go back to elementary school, maybe it was first grade, and they told you how shadows actually work, that there's a light source, and then there's an object. And when the light source hits the object then casts what is known as a shadow. It casts light that looks like itself. So that's just science. We ain't even got to the spiritual realm, but I hope you see where we're going. But I want you to keep that in mind, the science of how a shadow is actually made, because we're talking about abiding under the shadow of the Almighty. So let's break down some words real quick. In Hebrew, they have one word that means, they have two words that means shadow. And when you place this word with other letters, it then translates into in our image. So you've got shadow, and then when you put it with other stuff, it then becomes in our image. Okay, well, where have we heard that phrase before? That's starting from the very beginning. That's Genesis. In Genesis, we hear God say, with the triune, let us make them in our image. So let's simplify it. Let us make them in our shadow. Because what are we? We are known as what? The image of God. Okay, well, how can I be an image of God? And what does that have to do with this shadow? Going back to how is the shadow cast? Boom, here you go. The light source, we can liken to God the Father. It's the thing that you can't really touch, do anything with. You try touching the sun, see how that go. Doesn't go well. But when the sun light has its light shine on an object, Jesus, because we get a living form of who God is, right? That he is God, but in the flesh. If God is working through Jesus, then what do you get? You get us. We get the image of God. We are the shadow of Jesus. So if we are resting under the shadow of the Almighty, we are reflecting Jesus. That's all we're doing. We are looking at how Jesus has done things, looking at that stationary object that is what we can touch, taste, see that the Lord is good. And we're going to reflect him. And how do we reflect him? He tells us through the fruit of the Spirit. So what does our fruit look like as we are abiding with Jesus? We should be seeing more love, more peace, more tranquility, more long suffering, joy. Why? Because we're getting it from the source. We're only doing what Jesus did. We're not making up something new to do. We're doing what Jesus has done. We're allowing ourselves to be cast. We are his shadow. So what did Jesus do when he was in a rut? What did Jesus do when he had to be delayed? What did Jesus do when he had to wait? What did Jesus do when he needed to be patient? What did Jesus do when he needed to endure something? That is what we're supposed to be reflecting. But that happens when we're abiding, when we're waiting with him, when being with God and checking in with God and making God our center focus is not something we do one day, but not the other day, for this situation, but not for that situation. It's doing it all the time. It's making a lifestyle of abiding with him, doing what he does. When Jesus doesn't answer your prayer and you feel like, okay, I'm just at a standstill, then stand still. And while you're standing still, what would Jesus do if he's standing still? That's what we're looking to do. In Psalms 91, it goes on to tell us all the things that are happening as we're focused on trying to exude and produce the fruits of the Spirit as we allow God to embody our lives. Psalms 91 tells us all of what's going on. It says that, many are falling away while we're resting under this shadow. There's judgment happening. There's pestilence. There's plagues. There's destruction. There's also deliverance. And there are even angels that are being given charge over us. And this is all that's happening in the reality of us waiting, resting, being stable in whatever situation we're in, being patient in whatever situation we're in. This is what's happening all around us. But we are resting. Why are we resting? Because we get the secret place as our refuge. Just being with God, just knowing he's with us, just having his presence lets us know that we're okay, even in the midst of the worst. I told a sister of mine, I said, I really think that Psalms 91 needs to be one of the first scriptures that every new Christian gets, because sometimes we like to remind God of what's going on and why it feels so hard to trust him, love him, wait with him, be with him. But he already knows, and Psalms 91 tells us that. I've always known what's going to go on. However, you have a secret place to go to. You've got a treehouse to hang out in while the dog is barking and trying to get you. You've got a place with me. And it's not just that it's the reality of his presence here, but it's also knowing that no matter how this goes, whether it be death or the worst, that I've got a place with God. That at the end of the day, no matter how it turns out, it's me and God forever when this is all over. And that is the type of peace that we need. So the Christian Standard Version basically just makes it very clear and just very cut and dry. It says you can go to God, the Most High, to hide. You can go to the all-powerful God for protection. If you take nothing away from Psalms 91, but you will take a lot from it. I hope that what you're taking from it is that God truly has the capacity to be the place that you can delay with. He's the person that you can delay with. He's the person that you can wait patiently with. He's the person that you can endure with. It's him. Because he's doing so much. He's rescuing, he's saving, he's providing, he's making all things new. He's doing all of the heavy lifting in life. So why can't we rest? Why can't we accept a delay in our circumstances? Why can't we accept that we need to pause for certain things? Why can't we accept that sometimes we need to take our hands off of it and all of our advice and just wait with the Lord? And it's not just when things are bad, but also when things are good. That when things are good, instead of thinking, okay, well, what's the next thing that's going to be good? Or what's the next thing that's going to be wrong? To just enjoy the moment of what is good. Pause in your good time to just be with God. Because he that dwells, who makes a home in the secret place of the Most High, shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty.